Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Testing 1 2, testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3, testing 1 2 3, testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Ha. Why does it start streaming on me? And why it wants to start streaming, I have no idea. Oh, I see. Right there. Okay, and it should still be streaming. Man, darn thing. Okay, so I'm alive again. Ha! Or I'm live again. I never was dead. So, I'm not sure how I sound. I've been like playing with this thing, and you guys probably saw me playing with it with the sound board. Not playing with it, playing with the soundboard. It sounds like a little bit hot to me, like a little bit too much, but you know, it's up to you guys, and I can see the chat. But tonight I have this one thing I really, something that, you know, that kind of trips me out. This one guy, he comes up with like the best pictures of Bigfoot that I ever saw in my life, right? Besides the one I saw, real one that I saw. But this guy, you know, like regularly, he puts up videos and pictures and stuff like that. And I never even heard of this guy until, you know, recently. And I, you know, a couple of his pictures really, you know, like, I don't know, if they're fakes, they're the best fakes I ever saw in my life. And if they're real, they're the closest thing to real that I ever saw in my life in pictures. You know what I mean? So, did you like the t-shirt? Let's see. I don't know where I'm at. Okay, I'm gonna be off of the chat for a minute while I play in this thing. I actually did come up with a t-shirt. That's the t-shirt right there. Okay, I'm coming back to chat. Mark Anders, I think that's the guy's name. Okay, that t-shirt, I actually had that t-shirt printed up. I thought, let me see here. Yeah, so I had this t-shirt printed up. I'm not sure if you guys can see it. Let me go back to this. So let's see, control. Okay. And I wanted to make sure that like it was good quality. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to make sure it was really good quality, and before I even put it up for sale. But that's what it says. It says the Squatch Zone. I thought I was buying it on a black shirt, but it looks like if you put it on a black shirt and you made the lettering white, I think when you order it, you could order any lettering color you want. But the quality is really good. You know what I mean? Like it's even better than the one I'm wearing right now. And so, you know, like I'm trying to think of ideas to do these shirts, or to make some more money so that I can improve the quality and improve the show and buy more equipment and not have to rely on you guys as like just giving me money, you know. I mean, even though I appreciate it and I love all of you and I've been praying for every single one of you, and I know who your names are that gave, and you later, as I get rolling, I'll be expecting something. Okay. I'll be putting the shirt store up. I just wanted to make sure if you guys liked it, you know, the shirt idea, because if nobody liked it, then why go through all the trouble of making a store and, you know, doing all that kind of stuff. So I thought I'll make one, pay for it, buy it, get it here. I mean, I think, and this is their lowest quality shirt too. I mean, like, it's the lowest quality I think that you can get on there, and they have higher weights and you know, you can put it on anything in the store. I mean, you can put it on mugs or whatever. I'll if you guys like it, I'll go ahead and build the store, right? And then you guys could order everything. And I promise that I'll make it reasonable, like not trying to kill everybody. Okay, now, and you guys can let me know in the chat. They misspelled Squatch? Serious? Wait a minute, let me see. Control 4. They did. Oh, I wonder if I get a refund. Oh, that's really good. Whoa. Okay, so they did. They misspelled it. I wonder if they misspelled it on the shirt too. Let's see. They did. Oh my God. I'm going to have to go back and check that out and see if I can get a refund, because I know I spelt it right. I spelt it right. And I haven't really checked on it since. So, yeah, that is funny. That is really funny. You know, when the store gets, if you guys like the idea, then I'll put the store up and I'll make sure they spell it right. That's funny. Okay, so back to this Mark Anders guy. I'm gonna go out of chat for a minute, and I know you guys saw some of the pre-show that I wasn't really expecting, pre-show today, but I had my buttons crossed again as I'm learning this thing. I've been playing with this software, trying to figure out like all the things. Like behind my image is actually an image of Yosemite in the dark, and I think it's like the coolest picture that you ever, I guess. Like, I love stars and I love Yosemite. That's actually Yosemite Valley. It looks like springtime, probably, as the snow's melting off. One of the things a lot of people don't know about Yosemite Valley is back in the day they used to have a firefall, and they would push actual coals off of the side of the mountain. And every night at 9:00 they would do that. And so at 9:00, everybody would be down in the valley. And I've heard a million stories, and I've listened to the TV shows and stuff like that, but nobody ever talks about what everybody's really yelling, right? They yell about, let the fire fall and all that kind of stuff. But really, everybody in the valley was yelling, Elmer. Now, all you old folks like me that's been in the valley whenever they had the firefalls, you'll remember everyone yelling, Elmer, Elmer. Everyone was yelling Elmer. And the reason everyone was yelling Elmer was because supposedly, way back in the day, this little donkey or burro got lost. And okay, normally they don't get lost, and they're the most sure-footed animal I know when it goes to like riding trails and stuff. But according to legend or rumor or whatever you want to call it, Elmer got lost. Okay, and so at night, right before the firefall, the what would I would watch the sky, and you've seen all those stars, right? I would watch the sky, and there would be one satellite that would come over, and it would mean that like in a couple of minutes it's going to be 9 o'clock, and I would start yelling Elmer, Elmer. Everybody's yelling Elmer, and then I never did hear the guy yell let the fire fall because everybody was yelling Elmer down in the valley. And then they would push the fire over, and oh my gosh, you guys, I wish they would do it again. I don't see where it hurts the park or anything to do that. I mean, it's amazing. It was always amazing. It was something they did for a long, long, long time, and I hated to see it end. But yeah, it really sucked, that they did that. Okay, so I am going to yeah, there's only 3 stars in Boston, right? In the city. That's funny. Okay, so and it says I guess I'm not like doing so good on my streaming tonight. I don't know why. Yeah, Elmer went 411. Okay, now this Mark Anders. You guys see Mark? Yeah, Mark Anders, and he has a channel, and he puts his name all over everything, right? And this is like the most recent Bigfoot that he put up, and he has some female ones, and he has some like the thing is they all look different, right? So either if they're fake, somebody is putting out some really darn good suits, and like Jeffrey a while back had bought one of the most expensive Bigfoot suits you could get. It was like $1,500. It was custom made. I mean, it took the guy like 8 months to make it, and you could tell it's a suit. You know what I mean? Like, you still can tell it's a suit. That right there looks like a Bigfoot that it looks real. I mean, it looks pretty real. Some of them that he has doesn't. Okay, now this is some of the other ones right here. And I can't remember. I think the first two right here on the left, they're from this is the Mexico Bigfoot. That's what they're calling it. And the far right one that's all buff and everything, that one I think is Oklahoma. But I mean, he has them everywhere, right? So I was really impressed with this Mexican Bigfoot. I mean, Mexico Bigfoot. I mean, look at the guy. Look how long his arms are. And one of the things about these two pictures, with the Bigfoot that I saw and the Patty film that you see, one of the things about it is the only skin that I could see at the distance I was at was the eyes, around the eyes. Everything else was covered with fur. So I didn't see lips like how they're showing it. And the only thing that's different about these and what I saw also was their fur was more, the one that I saw looked like he kept himself clean. And he looked like a black lab. The fur looked like a black lab, and it was shiny and clean. There was no junk in the hair. That doesn't mean, though, that there wouldn't be junk in the hair with them. Maybe he just got out of the creek. I don't know, But what I do know is that is some serious weird looking Bigfoots. And I mean, he's getting the muscles. I mean, if they're making it fake, they're getting the muscles right, like the deltoids, around their shoulder in the neck. I mean, it just looks really real to me. And I don't know, if you guys know this guy or have you heard of him or anything like that. But those are like the and he has one like the what alerted me to it was Dr. Meldrum. Uh, he put up a video, and he was it showed one walking, right? And I think it's the first Bigfoot that I showed. And he showed one walking, and the foot actually bent at the mid tarsal break. Okay, like where your arch would be, this animal's foot bent right there. Like instead of the toes aiming up like that, like when he made a step, your toes, well, his whole foot kind of bent up when he was taking the step. And then he landed on his heel. But Dr. Meldrum was asking, does anybody know this Mark Anders? Where did he come from? Does anybody know anything about the video? About where did he get the video or anything like that, And it was like, wow, that, I understood. I seen the comments and everything. And he said, don't, comment anything that would be dumb. You know what I mean? Like stick to all he wanted to know was information, but only, there's all kinds of comments and stuff like that. And I'm sure he wasn't really looking for. Only what he did was he got me going. He got me going on this Mark Anders guy, like it was like, no, I never did hear. I seen pictures like a long time ago, and it was the best pictures I ever saw, and it looked like the closest thing to the Bigfoot I saw. Only when I said something about it, everybody goes fake, 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 and it was like the first Bigfoot that this guy ever put out. And even Jeffrey was like, fake, fake, nobody can get that close and get that good a video. Well, now after all these years, and, like it's been 5 or 6 years since I looked this guy. I mean, I totally didn't even know what his name was. I said it one time and everybody was like, shut me down. So, if everybody thought it was a fake, then, I must be mistaken. Even though it looked like the best Bigfoot I ever saw on film, even better than Patty, I must be wrong. But I'm going to tell you that when I went back, when Dr. Meldrum put that video up and I saw the foot bend at the mid-tarsal break, I'm like, okay, like how did he do that? Like whoever made that one, how did they do that? How did they do that? Like that's ridiculously impossible unless it was like motorized. But you could see, I mean, you're looking at the entire Bigfoot, you know what I mean? Like the whole thing walking, and you could see the muscles in the strap, around their side, the muscle straps, I mean, like the gluteus maximus muscle and everything. And I'm like, that looks real to me, that looks real. And so then I went back and started looking at it, like he had female ones, and male ones, and they're all over the freaking map, of everywhere. And he's got some that are still shots and like several different poses of one single Bigfoot. Then he's got videos of them moving and walking, and I mean they're massive. You know, you could tell they're massive. Like I just found it interesting that everybody was saying they're fake. Like I would like to see somebody prove it, prove they're fake, because I have this really sneaky suspicion that they're not fake. And I actually believe that soon, really soon, maybe this year, hopefully, or the coming up next year, that I get some video like that, that I get really clear video like that. I mean, we've been hot on the trail of this thing for 5 years, and actually I've been hot on the trail of it for since 1990. I would say 93. 1993. Do a background check on this individual, and well, I looked him up the best I could, and I found out he's like a filmmaker. Okay, and he's really good at CGI. Some of his latest stuff is CGI, but what we're looking at isn't CGI. The pictures aren't CGI. He's talking about that the people that get the pictures are trackers. Okay, like expert trackers. Well, I'm a pretty good tracker. I grew up that's how I grew up, was tracking animals, and I mean I hunted rabbits and you name it, and we tracked deer. My dad and his best friend, they would make tracks in the dirt, and they would ask me, you know, like, what track is it? They could make the tracks with their fingers, you know what I mean? Like rabbit and deer and cat and dog, and you know, how long ago did it go by looking at the track? How long ago how old is the track? Like minutes? Was it an hour? Was it a day? I mean, there's ways of reading that stuff in tracks. So there's no reason why, if somebody got on the trail of a Bigfoot and, you know, went into an area and then stayed in that area for any length of time and figured out their movements and everything, there isn't any reason why that you couldn't figure out where they're going to be at any, you know, because they're creatures of habit, just like deer and everything else, and us, you know, we do things every day the same. I'm sure they do too. And if you set up with a telephoto lens or in a blind or something, and you know one's going to go by, you could get pictures like that. I mean, for instance, like the Bigfoot that I saw, the guy that I was with was my dad's best friend, and he you know, he taught me a lot about tracking and hunting and reloading ammunition and shooting, you know, along with my dad. So I mean, I learned a lot of stuff from these guys. But one thing I learned about him was, like, when we would deer hunt, like we would go a couple of weeks before the season, and actually all summer, really, you know, every weekend. And the whole time, like for us kids, it was just like camping, you know, that's what we were doing. Not, these guys were serious hunters. So they weren't out there just camping. They were getting the movement of the animals, and you know, where they're feeding, where they're watering at, where they're sleeping at, where, you know, what time of the day are they moving, which way are they moving, you know, are they staying in the same area, are they moving, you know, a certain direction and stuff like that. That's why, like, when I talked about earlier in one of the other shows about the migration route, we stayed in that migration route And I actually believe the Bigfoot stay in that migration route too, because that's where their food is. You know what I mean? Like all the food. So there would be Bigfoot, deer, every animal going through that area that's, migrating would be following the deer. Anything that ate the deer, like mountain lion, bear, Bigfoot, humans, all this stuff would be in this section of land, where they migrate. So I actually believe, like, when the first time I saw a Bigfoot, that my dad's best friend, he had previously in the 9 days before that, he's like, hey, I had an idea, we'll go over here, okay? And we'd go over there, and he'd pick out a spot and we would sit down, and then he says, like, if you watch over there in a few minutes, if you watch over there, some deer are going to come out. Okay, now we're in the middle of freaking nowhere, all right? Like, we're pretty much on the edge of the wilderness even, where the road doesn't go any further. And here he is, picking out areas where the deer are going to come out and walk by us, at a certain time, almost like setting your watch to it. And he took me to several of these places, and we were hoping that a buck would be. A lot of times the buck won't walk with the deer, the female, but they'll be off a little ways. And if you watch the females, they'll look in the direction. They take direction from the males. The males direct them and tell them what to do. So if there's a male, if you watch the females, they'll be looking back towards the male or looking towards where the male are, the bucks. So a lot of times you might not see one, and you think, after the deer go by, there's no other deer, but then the buck is just off in the woods over there and skirting the area and trying not to get shot is what he, they're smart enough for that. You know what I mean? So he took me to several of these places, and then that night, we're sitting in the camper, and he says, hey, I thought about going to this one place, and it sounded just like how he was telling me the mornings before or the evening before, on the other stuff. He's telling me, let's go to this one spot, and we'll hike over the hill to this little high lake, and where there's no roads at all, not even a trail, just it's on the map, but you could walk over to it. It's about like a mile off where the road dead ends. And he says, we'll walk over there. But then he didn't seem like he was in a hurry to leave. You know what I mean? Like, we're sitting there, and when it got looked like the idea was before the sun, it got light enough, where when it got light enough where you could see to walk, we're going to start walking over the hill. That way we aren't using flashlights. Well, he wasn't really ready to leave, and it was getting brighter and brighter, and then, the Bigfoot stood up, and then it walked down the mountain, and I was like, oh my gosh, and I told you guys that story, but I have the feeling that he knew, just like he knew the deer were coming, I think he knew the Bigfoot was coming. I think he knew that it was going to go down through there, and we were going to, like, be in the right place for it to intersect with us, right? I know that sounds all crazy and everything, but the guy was that smart, right? In fact, he told me that he would deny if I ever told anyone that we saw a Bigfoot together. He would deny it, completely to my face, and because he already seen a few of them. Like he said, that was like the fifth Bigfoot that he saw, And then I'm like, what, the fifth one? Like what was the other ones? Like how old was I and stuff like that? Was I around when you saw another one? Like I had a lot of bazillion questions. And he told me that one time he was in the same area, okay, and he was actually camped along this giant meadow. It's called Jackass Meadow, and he was camped on one end of it. And at that time, I mean, I was like 12 when he said that I was about 12. So that puts it like the barely 70s, the early 70s. And he said and he's sitting in the same camper that we're sitting in. Like, I mean, he had this old 68 Ford pickup, and he had this big old huge camper on it that had a shower and everything, a big slide-in camper overhead or whatever you want to call it. And I mean, that was his forever. He had that, and he had a panel truck, an old panel truck. But he said he was sitting in the camper, and if anybody, y'all know what campers, when you're sitting up in a camper, the window is way up, and he was sitting at the table reading a book, and some guy walked by and waved at him, and he glanced over and seen the guy just as this guy passes, but he didn't make out anything, no details like what he was wearing or anything. He just barely caught it out of the corner of his eye. And then, he thought he hadn't seen anyone in days, so he decided he was going to step outside, and he was going to talk to this guy. So he stepped out, and there was nobody there. Nobody behind the camper. Nobody was around. So then he got out, stepped off onto the ground, and then went around to the side of the camper and was looking for tracks and stuff like that. No tracks. It was all like pine needles and everything, so nothing was leaving any tracks. But he said as he was standing there, he realized, like, this is the first one he ever saw. He realized that whatever it was that walked by was really huge, because his head didn't even reach the bottom of the window. And whoever walked by and waved at him, he was head and shoulders, like his head was a little bit above the window, so his shoulders was like the main thing the guys that Mike saw. So this thing like went right by, and he was huge, right? And I never measured it, but he had to be huge to be head and shoulders in the window of this big camper, in the back of this truck, way up there. And then he told me another time was when with his son, and his son was around 14 at the time. So again, like, early 70s. And in nearly almost the same place, he said, like only maybe a mile in the same meadow, but in one part of the meadow there was a clear cut area that the logger back in the day, they could clear cut acres and acres and acres. Well, when I was really small, like 8 years old, something like that, they clear cut this area, and by the time we were like 12 or 14, there was small trees, and some of them were 6 feet tall. And they replanted the trees. They don't just clear cut and leave it. They would replant trees. So they reforest. Whatever they took out, they put back, which I think they still could do. I don't know why everybody thinks that's a bad thing, that they, we all have wooden houses, and we all have desks, and we all have wood stuff. I mean, long as they replace the forest, right? Like if you go there today, the trees are, 60, 80 feet. You can't even tell they ever cut them. Yeah, I've been seeing in my health, my streaming health is not so hot here. Well, anyways, he said he was in the same place. He was sitting in his truck and it was lunchtime. And usually we hunt in the morning and in the evening. And in the lunchtime, the deer they stay like bedded down in the afternoon, and they start moving around in the evening. So he was sitting in there during lunch, and then you know how kids are, they don't sit around for lunch, you know what I like I never was able to, but he gave his son he had given his son, I think, a couple of years before, a Springfield 03A3, a real nice 30-06. I mean, it was the old military version. In fact, like when he got it, it was like no, it was military, had the pop up sight and everything. But we sported it out and made it and cut the barrel down a little bit and made it really nice. But only that's what his son had that, and he told his son, you know what? Zigzag up that hill and see if you can't kick anything up. There might be something bedding down in there. Now, the way he suggested it was for his son might get a deer, you know what I mean? Like, and that's probably what his son was thinking, like, wow, what a good idea. I'm going to go kick up the brush and see if I can't spook up a buck, and I'll get a buck. But really, why he sent him out there was so that he could leave the door open in his camper truck and he could watch his son zigzagging up the hill. And usually, like, when deer burst out, you don't see them. Like, if you're the one that spooks them up, you don't normally see it. You get a glimpse of it, but you're not long enough to shoot it, even if you do even see it. Well, his idea was, his son's going to kick one up, and then he's going to just stand up and shoot right off the back of the truck and nail it if one jumps up. Well, he was sitting there, and he said that all of a sudden he realized that he noticed like something on, to his left started moving across into his view, and it was staying low and kind of ducking behind bushes and trees, and it was watching his son, but it wasn't looking at him. And he said it was jet black, and it was like a man. He said it moved like a man, looked like a man, only it had fur all over it, What we actually saw together, it's a man with fur, is what I mean. That's what they look like. When you see these, I don't know, and all you guys that haven't seen a Bigfoot, they're not big and clunky and stuff like that. Even if they're a little bit heavy, they're still very, very graceful and powerful, and they move like ninjas. That's going to call them forest ninjas. These guys are bad. They're the apex predator in the woods. We're not. They are. Well, he said it went by right between him and his son, and he said he never felt like that his son was in any danger at all. But he kept an eye on him, and he said that as it went out of his view onto the right, he made a noise, like he got up so that he could continue to watch it, because he wasn't that sure that, even though he didn't feel like that it was going to attack his son. I mean, you can't go by feelings all the time, so he got up and he made some noise. And he said the thing turned and looked at him and then stood up and then just walked right into the woods and disappeared. And they never saw it again. It just stood up. He said it kind of looked at him like kind of sideways like, and then walked right into the woods and disappeared. And I've heard that, like, when he was telling me that was 1987. I've heard that same thing so many times now, about it stands up, it sees, it knows you're looking at it. It might look at you. It might give you this like peripheral vision look, and then it just walks into the woods calmly, not running or anything, walking away. Like, almost like you're told, like we're told to do if there's a bear or any kind of animal, don't run because it might chase you. You know what I mean? So you walk and you don't give it eye contact, and you walk away or you back up. I mean, that's what these things do. They do the same thing we're taught to do in the wild, which is amazing. And then he had a couple of more stories. I'll save those for later. Okay, now to chat. Okay. 67 years old and you have a sense of humor. I am so glad of that. Really glad. So I don't know. I don't see anything about it. You know what? You're right. They do look like they're on an escalator when they're running. Their head doesn't bounce, and they glide. Like, have you ever been to an airport that has a moving sidewalk, and how you can like get walking on one and you feel like you're Superman or something, or the Bionic Man. You could take off and you can walk really fast down the moving sidewalk in an airport. That's what they look like when they're running. They just like zip like that so fast and really smooth, and yeah. And he says he saw one in 2013 on a mountain peak in the Sierras. Looked peaceful as it gazed over the valley just as the sun was setting. Wow, that's cool, man. That's pretty cool. Did he know you were there? Like, if he knew you were there, he might have not been looking so serene or peaceful. Like he might have been a little more worried. Want to get you out of there, or get out of there, or not let you see him. Because I know the one that I saw, he, and it was a he. It seemed all peaceful and serene and nonchalant and casual and just like swinging his arms, just like, da 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 da, going down the hill like nothing's going on. Soon as, though, that he knew that there was somebody in the car or the truck, everything changed about him. Like it was almost like you could feel him tense up. I mean, all of a sudden he tensed. He got tense, and I tensed because he tensed. And I know when he saw the rifle that, when I whipped out, I probably shouldn't have, but I didn't have binoculars, and I only wanted to look at him, but all I had was a gun with a scope on it. So, I mean, when I whipped the scope out, the rifle and scope, I think the guy freaked, really. I mean, I would have freaked even. So I know they know what guns are, because he booked it like he was on an escalator, the moving sidewalk in the airport. That's what it looked like. And I mean, he was swinging his arms like almost too. He was swinging his arms exaggerated compared to the way we swing them, and maybe it seemed exaggerated because their arms are longer. I'm not sure, but it's just something that. And he knew you were there. That is so interesting. Yeah, I've come across lots of bears too. 3 degrees. Did he seem cold? Did he have like long hair on him? Man, I got to get this thing ready to. I got to get this thing ready to take calls, because it would be cool for you to call and we could sit and chat on it. But we got the chat at least. But I always wondered, like in the wintertime, like do they stay? I mean, like back in the Midwest, I mean, they stay in the snow, right? They stay out there. I mean, where are you gonna go? It's snow everywhere. You'd have to go like 1,000 miles to get anywhere where there wasn't any snow. Wow, long gray hair. I've heard of the gray-haired gray-haired ones. In fact, I just got told, or somebody came to me and told me that I could go meet some Bigfoot 20 feet away. And they told me not to be shocked, but there was lots of them. And they said there was gray ones and black ones and multicolored ones and red-haired color ones. And there was fat ones and skinny ones and tall ones and small ones. And run the gamut, you know. But there was like a lot of them over there. And right now I'm trying to arrange something right now to go check that place out. But yeah. Yeah, I believe they got caves and stuff. They photo on you have a photo on your channel of the Bigfoot? Of the Bigfoot. Yeah, maybe I should roll back in the chat. I'll roll back in time. For some reason it says I'm like streaming sluggish tonight. I've been having problems with my router. I know it's not the system this time. See, I heard they smell bad too, but I never smelt one. And I've been all around them. I'm serious. Like, I've been all around them. All around them. I've been really close to them. I've had things thrown at me from a really short distance. I've had them whistling at me, yelling at me, talking at me. I think mentally talking at me also. I'm not real sure about that one. Well, actually, I am sure about it, but I don't want everybody to think I'm crazy. But I have had that too. But I've never smelt them. I've often wondered, like, the ones that live in the swamps, if they smell because of the water. You know what I mean? It gets in their fur and they get all, you know, musty from the water. Or maybe they can turn it on and off, you know, like if they know the people are in the area, then they could turn on the smell and make everybody run away. You know, you smell that and you're like, we need to get out of here. You know, I don't know. I've wondered about that. Have I seen the video of the lady talking to one? Does it show the Bigfoot too? Like, whoa, no, I haven't seen that. Yeah, I haven't, I live in California too. I haven't smelled them. And I know I've been like surrounded by them and I never smelled them. When we were at the Thule Reservation, they were all around us. I mean, there was probably like 3 or 4 of them surrounding us, and they were hollering, and I never smelled anything. And I know that one was like, after we went to bed, they were all around us, and I never smelt anything. You know, I've smelt deer and I've smelt bear before. And maybe I smelled a Bigfoot and I didn't know that I was smelling it. Now, you know, since I didn't see it. But I know I've been like hunting deer and you know, stalking them, and you try to keep the wind in your face, and you try not to be moving whenever they look at you, and you can walk right up to them and slap them right in the head. You know, I mean, like, they can't see you, but when you get pretty close to them, if there's a little bit of a breeze, you can smell them. And the same with bears. Like, when they get in the area, if they're on the side of the hill and the wind is kind of blowing down the hill, you can smell a bear too. You know, they have a smell. Yeah. Yeah. Oh boy. I bet they smell the women. I bet they could smell all of us. I bet we smell pretty, even the guys. Unless you've been there for 9 or 10 days. But if you're just showing up on the first day and you just had a shower and shampooed your hair and put on your deodorant and all that, I bet we smell all frilly to them. Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, the dump bears. We used to go to Yosemite. Like, speaking of my picture of Yosemite, we used to go at night and spotlight the bears in the dump, and there would be like 30 or 40 of them in there, getting everything. I mean, it was like a nightly thing to go to the dump in Yosemite and watch the bears. And then they also came around like where we lived at, and they would go through the garbage cans and stuff. And it was always kind of freaky, to be like, we thought, I mean, this is like when I was a little kid, before I saw Bigfoot, and we used to think of the hairy monsters, the tribal people around where I lived at up there. They would say the hairy man and stuff like that. So there was only one street light, and we were supposed to be in by the time the street light came on. But there was only one street light in the neighborhood, and all us kids would be all around it, telling scary stories. And one night we were out there, and we're telling all these booger stories and stuff like that, and a bear actually did come into the light, and then it kind of like sat on its haunches and kind of stood up. It didn't make any noise or anything, but it was only like 5 feet from me, and it was sat up and sitting straight up, and oh my god, it scared the what out of. I mean, we went. I think if it wanted to eat somebody, it wouldn't know who to select, because kids went in every direction. But I do know, like, if they're within 100 yards of you, if they do want to eat you, they can eat you. You can't run fast enough to get away from them. If they're even 100 yards away, they can catch you. A lot of people don't know that, and they can run uphill and downhill. Okay, I know a lot of people say they can't, but they can. I haven't heard of any, but only I haven't heard of any recent cases of 411 in Yosemite, but that doesn't mean that they're not happening. Yeah, a while back, like when, like I think after our first interview that we did with David Paulides, we interviewed a retired park ranger from Yosemite, and it was a lady, and she wrote a book about them. She also wrote a book about people missing in Yosemite. She didn't call it 411, but only she came at it from the perspective of a park ranger. I wish I could remember the book. I would recommend it right now, because it was a good book. But she would be taking people's money, going into the park, and she was wondering which one isn't going home every single day. Okay, every single day she wondered which one's not going home. And, that made me really think, like, I've wandered all over that park. I mean, I was only like 7, 8, 9 years old, and I wandered all over that place all by myself. I never saw anything, but I mean, I knew everybody. I mean, I lived there. So, I mean, like, I felt, I mean, I even crawled around in the Indian caves. I mean, I was all over that place, man. I went swimming in the river all the time. I mean, I never heard of anybody disappearing until I got older. But yeah, the ranger, she was saying that she thought, she was wondering which one of the people that she was seeing and taking their money that day, which one wasn't going home. And they don't report it. They don't write a report on it. They don't do anything. I don't even think they do a search and rescue unless there's certain things that it has to be gone so many hours. And if they do, they if they don't find anything on their preliminary search, they don't continue. I mean, that's just what I hear. That's just what I hear. Yeah, they would catch me if I started snoring. Like I could play dead until I fell asleep, and then they would have me. They could hear me 3 miles away. Yeah, yeah. I well, the Bigfoot, like you say, fear the ones that can imitate other animals. The Bigfoot imitates every animal. This I know from experience. They can be kitty cats. I mean, they'll sound just like a kitty cat, like a little kitty cat, no different. Owls, they love to be owls. Only like if you're like me and you grew up in the mountains, you know what owls do. You know what I mean? Like usually there's maybe one or two and they hoot back and forth, but they don't really move around very much. You know what I mean? They kind of stay. If they do move, it means they flew down and hunted and, got some game, and then they're quiet for a while. And then you might hear them later on if they even come, start hooting again. But usually they do like a pattern, you know what I mean? And like all owls have this kind of pattern, like all animals do. The Bigfoot, when they're acting like owls, though, they don't stick to the pattern of the owls. You know what I'm saying? They like they'll be like five owls, and they get carried away and they put other sounds with the owls. At first, like they can fake you out for a little while. Like at first they'll be doing the pattern of the owls, and you'll be going, I think that's an owl. Yeah, it's an owl. And then a little while later, it'll do something that an owl doesn't do. And it's like, wait a minute, is that an owl? And if we go long enough and they stick around long enough, pretty soon they turn into chimps, right? The owl sound will turn into chimps. And then it's not owls. It's not chimps either. But they might do like several other kind of calls, like a mountain lion cough. I don't know if anybody knows what that is, but mountain lions cough, and bear, when they're nervous, they go like that with their teeth, and you could hear it. You know what I mean? And it's not a bear already. There's too many other animals around. You know what I mean? Owls and this and that. It's Bigfoot then. Chimps, like it's they can mimic anything, and I even think they can mimic us. Like the one day we were up there with Jeff's wife and kid, and Jeff's son, I told him, like we can whistle, and if they're around, they like to whistle. They love to whistle. They whistle better than me. I mean, they can whistle anything you can whistle, they can whistle better, right? And they'll mimic them. They'll mimic the whistle exactly how you whistle it. And I mean, it's kind of entertaining, a little bit, because they almost can't resist a whistle. Like if you're out in the woods and you're whistling and you hear somebody whistling back, that's them. But I was telling Jeffrey's son that, and he was out whistling, right? Whistle, 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 whistle. It was almost getting like, okay, you can stop now. Luckily, he got caught up in something else after a little while, and he quit whistling. But then we got away from the area and left Jeff's wife there. And soon as we were clear of earshot of Jeff's wife, this thing started whistling at her. and sounded like exactly like her son's whistle. Exactly. She thought it was her son whistling, in fact, from a different direction than where she saw her son go. She she heard the whistle coming from the other direction. That's why she didn't go over there, is because she knew, and that's quite a story, man. That's really quite a story. But yeah, they whistle. I've had my name called like at least 3 times. I've heard my name being called, and I always try to figure out, okay, like it called my name, and usually it's when everybody, like, I don't hike, okay, so I stay in camp, and everybody will take off on a hike, and I know they're all together. I know they're going to be gone. They may be gone for several hours, and then about an hour after they're gone, that's when I start hearing my name being called. And it's like calling me, just says my name. And I think I know that it wants me, I think it wants me to like head for the direction of my name being called. And when I first started hearing it, I did do that, Only thing is, it kept being further and further away, like getting me further and further away from the camp. So then I decided, you know what? It isn't worth it. Like, it was starting to scare me, So I backed off and went back to camp. But I've heard my name called and the whistling and everything quite a few times now. And I've heard them also call other people's names, and sound like a girl, like sound like a woman saying the name and it would be somebody that was in our camp, and they're repeating what they heard that person say, the person's name. The guy's wife might say his name like, a bunch of times, like my wife does, when they get like upset with you, they say your name a bunch. Well, this Bigfoot started calling this guy's name, but he was sounding like the guy's wife. And I knew that, I knew they were already way up on top of a mountain. There was no way that, that was them. And when they got back, like several hours later, I was telling them about it, and they were like, what? Wow. Yeah. Yeah, I'm the guy that holds down the base camp, I don't go hiking very far unless it's not real. Like I can walk around long as it isn't like steep hill up or down. I can't even go hardly any little hills or anything. And I have to watch out because I can't feel my ankle and knee. So if I step in something that's not even, I could go down and break my bones and in my leg. Really, really simple. So I have to be really, really careful. I actually have a brace that I'm supposed to wear that goes in my shoe, and it like holds the bottom of my foot to keep my toes from dragging, and it goes up my leg and wraps around the calf. But I've used it a few times. It's just more pain. It makes more pain to me. I mean, I don't trip as much when I have it because I trip over every little stupid little thing. Only the tightness of it and everything hurts the leg. So it's like I would love to use it more, but only I'm allergic to pain. I really am. Yeah. Yeah, man, I have dreams about, having something to take out in the woods with me. Only I actually was in a fight with the forestry department here for a while because I'm disabled, right? And there's laws for disabled that at least I think, like, they can't make me not. Like, I want to take, say, like a little Honda 70 or a Honda 90. I know they don't make them anymore. Little Enduro, not a big engine, 100. or even an electric one. Only they're telling me, like, if I go off the trail, like if I go off of the dirt road and go, onto the trail where everybody's hiking, I can't take it on there because it's not considered a mobility device. And so I've been having it out with them, and I pretty much lost. I mean, there isn't an if I had, like, more disabled people out there arguing with me and showing up at the meetings and stuff like that, I probably would get further than I did. But if I'm the only one showing up and complaining, then, they shut me down pretty darn fast. In fact, they just start ignoring me. And it makes me mad because I really do want to be out there and go everywhere. I think I should be able to go anywhere anyone else with two good legs could go. Only they make everything like off-road vehicles. Like, everything's an off-road vehicle, and they're not allowed. They're banned, right, in most of the places I go. But you can use a mobility device that is made for handicapped people. So here I have a power chair, right? The biggest bump that it could go over is 3 inches. It'll only go so many miles on flat ground. I don't even know how many miles it'll go going uphill and then downhill, and then, all the rough terrain and all that. I mean, like, it would be ridiculous to take a power chair and try to think you're going to go hiking, trail riding on it. It isn't made for that. They're actually made to go around inside your house, not anywhere else. And there's nothing made that the government deems a mobility device for handicapped people except for those things, you know what I mean, like, that are made for your house or to get you around the store or something, but not there isn't one. I mean, you have to be really creative and probably do it against the law, which I've thought about. But yeah, I can road hunt, but I've road hunted before. It's a good way to hunt it, kinda. But I don't hunt anymore, like deer hunting. I've thought about it, though, the way the laws are going and everything. Like, we're gonna lose the right to hunt and all this stuff if we don't keep using it. So I think everybody should do everything they can, like hunting and fishing and all that kind of stuff. Like, keep doing it, because if we stop doing it, they'll take it away from us. But I do hunt the Squatch. I do, have a really bad habit about that. Like, I can't kick it. I'm addicted. Yeah. So, just noticed Sasquatch is smoking a spliff, huh? Yeah. I thought about that, like, buying the license. That's like, laws say, especially in California, and I'm not even sure anymore, you can't carry a weapon unless you have a hunting license. You can't have, you better not be caught carrying any weapon without a hunting license. I mean, that's just the way it is. Or have a permit to carry your weapon. But, like, I know a lot of people, they don't hunt and everything, and then, they pack that 44 and a 30-06 and a shotgun or whatever, and they're out there wandering around in the woods and they don't have a hunting license. Those guys they can get in trouble. Tickets and arrested, and your gun's confiscated. So, and I don't know if that's everywhere, but I know it's in California like that. Yeah, I still buy the fishing license. a Google off-road knee scooter. I'll have to look that up. I never heard of that. Man, I used to be always hunting, man. Like there was squirrel hunting and rabbit hunting. I love rabbit hunting. Man, we used to have that like that old let's see, you can conceal with you can conceal with fishing license. You can conceal a weapon with a fishing license. I don't know. Yeah, man, when I was like 6 years old, we used to ride on the hood, on the fenders of this old panel truck, and it had the blinkers on the hood, on the fender, and it had the big rolled fender, and the big or hood, and then the rolled fenders, and we would sit with our feet on the bumper and have the blinker switch between our legs and kind of hold on to it so we didn't get thrown off the truck. And have 22s, and we'd be out there rabbit hunting, man. And I mean, like, having a good old time. And then the next weekend, we'd be barbecuing rabbit. And it is so good, man. It is really good. And meat off the hoof, or whatever you want to call it, like out there, is so much better. I mean, bear is so good. If you know what you're doing, bear is delicious. I love to barbecue bear. I love all of it. Do I have a Facebook or a page? Or yeah, I do. I have a I'll look that stuff up. I like back in the day, I was in my 20s, and I used to teach the hunter safety class. Man, I didn't have the certification where I could sign off the license for the hunter safety class, but I could do the hunter safety class, and then there's this one guy in there that could sign it once we put everybody through the class, then he could sign it and sign everybody off. And I used to do that, and then for a long time I worked for like security guards, requalifying security guards. Had to requalify like every 2 years at the range, and I would reload and wad cutters and stuff like that for them. I would make holsters, belts, key fobs, all kinds of stuff for them, and also requal their gun permit. I also could teach them the baton, the mace, handcuff technique, courtroom procedure, all that stuff. I taught that for about 9 years. Really fun. Yeah, man. Rabbits are fun to hunt, and they are really delicious. Well, like we're getting off the track. I'm just sitting here chatting with you guys, and that's what I wanted to do too, is chat with everybody on the chat thing. I enjoy that so much. I learn from you guys, like, go get a hunting license so easy. Oh, isn't so easy. I know it isn't so easy in some states. I mean, it isn't even easy to get a gun in some states. Some states you can't even have one. We're getting communist, I think. Like, everyone should have a gun. I mean, everyone. I think they should make everyone, that should be like a mandatory thing. Everyone have a gun. You could just see this dude running in to rob a bank or a 7-Eleven or something, and everybody draws down on him. Like you're out there carjacking someone or beating up a woman or acting like you're going to do some kind of terrorism thing, and everybody around you draws down on you. Like, I don't think that there would be a few people that get shot, sure. There's already a whole bunch that get shot every day, but I mean, there would be a few that would get shot. And then after that, I think everything would calm down pretty much. I think crime would really go away. Everybody should own one. Everybody. I believe that. It says have to have fishing poles with you. Oh, and you. Huh, I never knew that. So if you carry your fishing poles and you have a fishing license, you can conceal carry. That makes sense. It does. Like I've been jacked up like I don't know how many times in the woods. Lucky I know everyone around here, like all the rangers and firefighters. I mean, I raised my kids in the mountains and lived up there like 20 some odd years. Only recently when I got hurt did I move down to the city, but raised all my kids up in the hills, was raised in the hills, and it's the only way to go. I mean, like, raising your kids in the hills, they can't get in any trouble, for one. But second, you get to know everybody. Everybody that patrols the mountains live in the mountains. So, like I've even, like, when I was deer hunting, I got hit up for my hunting license. Even though the guy knew I had my hunting license and everything, he still hit me up and made me look, show it to him. And then I've been hit up, do I have a hunting license and packing a 44, out Bigfooting, and I didn't have a hunting license, but only they already knew me, they already knew that I control myself with a gun or what. Yeah, however that works. But let's see. Jeff used to tell me he's been in my old house in Toll House. In your house in Toll House? Yeah. Man, Toll House, do you know? Oh, I shouldn't say any names. Was it like by the market, Toll House Market? Behind Toll House Market, like across the creek, the little bridge goes back in there, or was it, and I'm talking about Toll House, little town proper with the post office and all that, or was it like on? I painted a whole bunch of those houses back there. What was it? I can't say the guy's name, but yeah, I painted all those. I painted all those houses back in there, and then you know how like the road dead ends and goes down. And really, it doesn't dead end; it goes on up, and it's the Toll House Road. That the little wiggly road that goes up to the top by Sarver's Peak and everything. There's a little road that takes off, and I think it's like a little dead end road, and it has a bunch of little bitty houses on it. I knew everybody down that way, and I painted a lot of those houses too as they would come open. Yeah, Avocado Lake. I kind of wanna go checking out Avocado Lake this week. There's some stuff going on. You're right, and there's actually stuff going on all around the valley around here. There's your aunt. I bet I knew your aunt. If she lived on that little road, I bet I knew her. Like Bruce the garbage man lived on that road. And I almost knew everybody that owned the Toll House Market. In fact, I know who runs the Toll House Market today still. Yeah. But yeah, there's like there's weird things happening with animals down here in the valley. I don't know if it's connected to the Avocado Lake thing, but only I know some other mutilation things happened over there where the animals were killed and their organ meat was gone. Just the organ meat, the heart, the liver, stuff like that, and the blood. So they're laying right where they were killed, and there's no blood at all. And we were just all talking about hunting and everything. One of the things, okay, that you can't avoid when you kill something is the blood. I mean, you guys know I'm right. You get blood all over the place on some things. The bigger the animal, the more blood there is. No blood. They're completely no blood. I mean, and then there's like surgical looking holes in them on some of them. The ones towards Avocado Lake actually look like surgical. You could see I put an interview in just recently up on my wall where we interviewed this guy, and he talks about that, about the surgical, the way that it was opened up was almost like surgical. The ones that are over here, oh man, I know Yancey. Those are the ones that live back there. I know them really good. That was your great grandpa? Wow, dude. I know the Yanceys. Or I did. It's been a long time. But yeah, like the ones over here that near closer to me, like maybe 7 or 8 miles, 10 miles away from Avocado Lake, which, in animal domain, that's not far, okay? Even for people now with cars, but I mean, animals move, they have like a wide area. So something happening along the foothills and then it goes down into the valley, 7 or 8 or 10 miles, that's nothing. But the ones over here, opposed to the ones over by Avocado Lake where it looks surgically cut, the ones here are ripped open. I mean, not cut, not bit. They're ripped open, but still no blood. It's like something drained the blood before it ripped them open. And then even like things like the stomach and intestines on one of them was ripped in half, like it grabbed it like this and just went rip and ripped the stomach and the intestines in half and then threw them like that. Still no blood, but what kind of animal has the strength to rip a stomach and intestines like that? That is a pretty strong. Whatever did that was strong, because I can't rip it. I can't even rip it. This was like 120-pound goats and sheep, and I couldn't even rip a rabbit stomach. You know what I mean? I mean, like, that's like the toughest skin of all the skin that you could have. I mean, how do you rip that in half? Yeah, then the story about Sarver's Peak and all that up there. Yeah, Yancey's. I can't remember the old guy's name, but he was a codger, man. Like he would get. He was very vocal. He would come out and chew us out and everything, like we were making too much noise in the day, or driving too many cars over there. I think maybe they even owned all those houses at one time, but I didn't paint them when he owned them. I painted them after K&K Property bought them, or Kevin bought them all. But yeah, there was no radiation coming off of these animals that we test that so far that we've tested. So yeah, Kevin, I think that's who bought all those houses. But then he disappeared. I mean, his property management company's still up there, but only I think he divorced and then he moved to Australia. He had a beautiful house up on top of Pine Ridge. Oh, speaking of Pine Ridge, Up on Pine Ridge, they have a it's like a neighborhood, and it's called Meadow Lakes. I'm sure you guys could look that up. Only the mountain people, recently put a video up of, and it sounded like some screaming, right? But it was, they did it with their cell phone, and they're describing what they're hearing, and you can barely hear it on the cell phone. And I'd been hearing about this like for, I don't know, a few months, and then I guess it came back, whatever it was, and it started hollering again last night. And somebody recorded it, and this time they tagged me in it on my Facebook, and I have all this really neat equipment now, so I ran the sound through that, and then messed with it a little bit, and I wanted it to be something, like a Bigfoot or something like that, but it's a mountain lion, and he calling for a mate, and it sounds like a really big one though, because when it does that, it has like the high pitched squall, and then it has a low growl at the end of it, But it's a mountain lion. Sorry guys, it's a mountain lion. If you guys are some of the ones living up there and wonder what that was, it's a mountain lion. I can try and, play around with this stuff here and record it for everybody and let everybody hear it, and put it on my YouTube. We'll see. Yeah. Yeah, well, you guys, see, I'm trying to make my way down to Yosemite ASAP. It's going to be winter pretty soon, so it'll be different. The best time to go is in the springtime, because in the springtime all the waterfalls are roaring. I mean, like deafening. And you get in that valley, and you have Yosemite Falls is like but that's not the only waterfall. There's a few of them in there: Bridal Veil Falls and Ribbon Falls and Yosemite Falls, lower and upper. But there's waterfalls all over, and if you go in the springtime, all the falls are just really pouring out of there. I mean, it's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And then I just heard about the rock. I used to lay in my bed and look out the window, and I could see the climbers sleeping on El Capitan with their, they have their little lights, and they'd be hanging on hammocks on. It would take them like 4 or 5 days to climb El Capitan, and I would be watching them. Well, I just heard about the rock that broke off the side of El Capitan. I guess somebody died in that one. I guess rocks are gonna fall. We used to have a joke. It was called it's watch for falling rock. Everywhere there's on the road, there's these signs saying watch for falling rock. So we made up a story, that it was this Indian that got lost, and so everybody was going to be watching for falling rock. When you see the sign, watch for falling rock. He's running around there somewhere. Maybe we'll find him. Yeah, I know, dorky joke, but when you're a little kid, it's pretty funny. Yeah, I'm close to the. Oh, really? You're up there, huh? So you're not that far away from Yosemite. I think I'm like 60 miles, but it takes 3 hours. It's a 3 hour drive, but only like 60 some odd miles. And the same with Sequoia National Park. I'm like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours from Kings Canyon and Sequoia National Park, all the big trees up there. I mean, I love where I live at, because I'm like 3 hours to San Francisco, 3 hours to Yosemite, a couple hours to the Kings Canyon National Park, Sequoia National Park, an hour and a half to anywhere in the middle of nowhere mountain wise, 2 hours and I'm really far, 3 hours and I'm at wilderness, like way in there, 2.5 hours to the beach, 3 hours or so to Los Angeles. So I'm like right in the middle of everything, Tahoe would be like a 5 or 6 hour drive for me though, like to go to Tahoe up that way. Yeah. Yeah, 10 hours from Vegas, unless you take Allegiant Air, then you're only like 42 minutes or something like that. I think you spend more time on the runway than you do in the air type thing. Yeah. So what's up, man? How you doing? I see that. What's up? Yeah, well, you guys, it's been like an hour and a half, I think. Let me see. Yeah, hour and a half, and I really got to cut it. I only expected to be about an hour. I'm going to try to do this like every other day or so. Like, come on live, and I'll be. I'm still like trying to get the bugs out of this dumb thing. And then you saw like my new, I can do things like this, you know, so cool, I think. But like I'm learning the system, and then I have some things I want to, that I want to do and record, and put it on the YouTube, recording it. So, you know, I'm enjoying the heck out of this. I love interacting with you guys on the chat. I think it's like the most greatest thing. Yeah, give me a call, fire dude, or give me a text, man. We'll go and do something here real soon, maybe this week. Thank you, sir. I subbed you, I'm pretty sure. The Woolly Booger. I did. In fact, I subbed everybody that is subbed me. I went and I went on theirs. If they had any kind of channel, with videos, I subbed them. So I tell you what, you guys, you have a really good evening. It was really fun catching up with everyone. If you hear any more about this Mark Anders guy and where he gets his videos, let me know. I really like by email or something like that. Or if you're Mark Anders and you are listening to this, man, email me, because I like to get to know some stuff. And since everybody liked the T-shirt thing, I'll set the store up, and I'll have a link up somewhere in the YouTube thing, so that everybody can buy a shirt. And until next time, y'all have a very, very good evening.